So today I am going to discuss with you about the different types of transcription factors that helps in your transcription process, and I will also discuss about the elongation process and the other modification that normally occurs. So let's get started now. So it says, what are the other general transcription factors that have specific roles during the initiation? We have discussed about the TBP, the data box binding protein, which normally recognize the minor groove of the data box sequence, and normally proteins recognize the DNA using their alpha helical structure and inserted into the major groove. But here the opposite thing occurs. The Tata box binding protein, with the help of the beta sheet, well, alpha helix and beta sheets are the secondary structures of the protein that folds onto itself to form that stabilizing structure. So Tata box binding protein, with the help of their beta sheet, they interact with the minor groove, and then after inserting into the minor groove, it widens that minor groove almostly linear, which allows the DNA to be bent at an angle of 80 degree and allows the other transcription factors to come and interact at that site. So let us discuss about the other transcription factors which is given. The first one that we will do is TAF. TAF is actually, the full form of TAF is called Tata box binding protein associated factor. Only T refers to the Tata box binding protein, A refers to the associated, F refers to the factors. So TBP, or Tata box binding protein, is associated with about 10 Tata box binding protein associated factors. Two of these Tata box binding protein associated factors bind DNA elements at the promoter, like it binds to the initiator element present in the promoter region, also known as INR region, and to the downstream promoter element. So this TAF, also called as Tata box binding protein associated factor, they associate with this Tata box binding protein called TBP. About 10 TAF associate with the TBP, and two of the TAF bind to other regions within the promoter, like one of the TAF associate with the INR element. Remember that INR element, I have shown it to you. So one of the TAF bind to this INR or initiator element. One more TAF associate with the DPE element called downstream promoter element. Okay. Okay. Several of these Tata box binding protein associated factors have a structure similarity with the histone proteins. Well, histone proteins helps in packaging of the DNA to form chromatin thread like structure. So the structure of this Tata box binding protein associated factor is associated with the histone proteins, and it has been proposed that they might bind DNA in a similar manner, although evidence for such form of DNA binding has not been obtained. So the process of binding of Tata box binding protein associated factor is with the DNA is just like how histones attach with the DNA. Well, histones have some positively charged amino acids on the outside, which helps to bind the negative charge phosphate groups of the DNA. Okay, it helps to bind to the negative charge phosphate groups of the DNA, and they fold to form chromatin thread like structure. Okay, there is more TAF. So other TAF are also there. Other Tata box binding protein associated factor is there, which appears to regulate the binding of TBP to the DNA. So um, another TAF or Tata box binding protein associated factors are there, which regulates the binding of Tata box binding protein to the DNA. It does this by using an inhibitory flap that binds to the DNA binding surface of TBP. Okay, so this Tata box binding protein associated factor also regulate the binding of Tata box binding protein to the DNA, and it does this by using an inhibitory flap. They have some inhibitory region which binds to the DNA binding surface of TBP. Okay, now this flap has to be displaced for TBP to bind Tata element. So the flap region which is found, the flap region, the inhibitory flap region which is found in the some of the Tata box binding protein associated factor, this flap region has to be displaced so that TBP can bind to the Tata box. Okay, so this was about the Tata box binding protein associated factor. From here, you have to study it up to here, and then from here up to here. You can also study this one. This is given an example actually. That's why I'm not going to this into details. Okay. Next is your TF2B. Well, TF2B, this protein is a single polypeptide chain that enters the pre-initiation complex just after TBP binds. So when TBP binds, when Tata box binding protein binds, then it binds to the minor group and it causes some distortion in the structure of the DNA. Thereby, it causes more space to allow interaction of the other transcription factors, and so here TF2B also binds just after TBP binding. The crystal structure of the ternary complex of TF2B TBP DNA shows specific TF2B TBP and TF2B DNA contact. What does it mean? So when TF2B associate with the DNA with TBP, it shows a specific contact region between TF2B with TBP and TF2B with DNA. So TF2B specifically contacts with the DNA as well as it specifically interacts with the TBP also. That means it has certain regions. TF2B have certain regions which interacts with the TBP at a particular site, and it has also another site which interacts with the DNA. and the interaction that occurs are base specific interactions with the major groove upstream. Obviously, it binds to the upstream region. It associates with the upstream region, that is, it binds to the BRE element. Well, BRE element is your TF2B recognition element, right? This one. This one is your BRE element. Here the TF2B interacts and interacts with the TBP as well as it interacts with the upstream region of the DNA. More specifically, it interacts with the BRE element located on the upstream of the DNA. Okay. Okay. Next. Next, it is saying, okay, and it also associate with the minor group downstream of the Tata element. That means the Tata element which is located just after the BRE element, there also this TF2B tries to interact with the TBP. So it interacts with the DNA at the BRE element, as well as TF2B interacts with the Tata box. Sorry, not Tata box. It interacts with the TBP, which is located on the Tata box element. Okay. So up to this much you have to study for TF2B. Okay. Let's move to the next page. More information about TF2B. Okay. Let's see from here. TF2B also contact with the polymerase 2 in the pre-initiation complex. So TF2B also interacts with the RNA polymerase 2 in the pre-initiation complex. Thus, this protein appears to bridge the Tata-bound TBP and polymerase. So TF2B acts like a bridge. It acts like a bridge that bridges the Tata bound TBP with the RNA polymerase. So normally what does TBP here it is doing? It is forming a not TBP, sorry, TF2D. So what does TF2B do is it is forming a linkage, it is forming a bridge. It is forming a bridge with TBP, that TBP which associates already with the Tata box and the RNA polymerase 2. Okay. I think you have understood what I have discussed. Okay. So again I repeating, TF2D does the main interaction. It interacts with the TBP and the Tata box. It also interacts with the DNA found on the upstream, that is on the BRE element. It interacts. It also interacts or contacts with the RNA polymerase 2 in that pre-initiation complex. So this TF2B protein, this TF2B protein appears to breach the Tata box bound TBP and polymerase. Okay. Next, it is saying that next it is saying one important thing. Now this thing has not been mentioned before because about the TF2D, because we have not done the prokaryotic transcription process, uh, and it is not given in your syllabus also. So the thing that I am going to say here, just listen carefully. The last line of TF2B, it is saying that recent structural studies suggest that the N-terminal domain of TF2B insert into the RNA exit channel of polymerase II in a manner which is analogous to the sigma 3.2 region in the bacterial case. Again, I am repeating, recent structural studies suggest that the N-terminal domain of TF2B insert into the RNA exit channel of polymerase II in such a manner which is analogous to the sigma 3.2 region in the bacterial case. So just let us look at the bacterial RNA polymerase first. I will try to compare this bacterial RNA polymerase with the RNA polymerase II in eukaryotes in the same figure. The figure has not been mentioned, has not been discussed here, but I have to show you the figure. So this is the figure of RNA polymerase of bacteria. This is the figure of RNA polymerase of bacteria. Now it looks like a crab's claw, just I have said in the previous lectures that RNA polymerase looks like a crab's claw. Well, the beta and the beta dash subunit, the beta and the beta dash subunit are analogous with the they are analogous with the RPB1 and RPB2. Okay, so the beta and the beta dash subunit are analogous with the RPB1 and RPB2. So this, in case of eukaryotic RNA polymerase 2, it will be RPB1, RPB2. Okay, I'm writing in Roman number. It is not in Roman, it is given in normal number, numerical number, RPB1 and RPB2. Okay, well, the other subunits has not been shown here properly, but the sigma region has been mentioned here. Well, the sigma regions, the sigma subunit, as denoted by this symbol like this is called sigma. So this sigma subunit is actually can be analogous to your general transcription factors. Okay, the general transcription factors which are found in eukaryotic cell during transcription, it is just analogous, means similar with the sigma factor found in the prokaryotic cell. Now what happened is, you can see it clearly here that, well, I have given you a diagram of RNA polymerase 2, the simplified diagram of RNA polymerase 2 in the WhatsApp, where how the RNA polymerase 2 unwind the DNA at the front, then synthesizing the RNA by using that unwinded DNA. One of the DNA strands is used as a template, and then it is rewinding the DNA from the back. Here also the same thing is done, is saying, but here more the RNA polymer structure has been shown more well manner, so it looks like a crab's claw, as I have mentioned before. And these are the regions of the sigma factor. So you can see sigma 1.1 attach, you can see the attachment with the sigma 2, then sigma 2 is attached with the sigma 3.1, and sigma 3.1 is attached with the sigma this region is called sigma 3.2. Again, I'm showing sigma 3.2 is that linker region which links the sigma 4 with sigma 3.1. So the sigma factor is acting here as a transcription factor. Okay, and we have so much different types of transcription factor. Now this sigma 3.2, this sigma 3.2 region is showing, it is saying that this sigma 3. Okay, this sigma 3.2 region is homologous, or you can say it is analogous with the, it is analogous with the n terminal domain. It is analogous with the n terminal domain of TF2B. So this linker which links the sigma 3.2 linker which links sigma 4 with sigma 3.1, as you can see in the figure, this region sigma 3.2 is similar with the structure of amino terminal domain or n terminal domain of TF2B. So recent studies suggest that the N-terminal domain of TF2D insert into this region what we call as RNA exit channel. You can see here the RNA exit channel here. You can see the RNA exit channel here. So this is a space, and within this space the RNA is going to be coming out from the RNA polymerase. Now this region is occupied now by sigma 3.2 in case of prokaryotic transcription. Well, in case of eukaryotic transcription, this region will be occupied by, similar with the sigma 3.2, that is the N terminal region of TF2B. Okay, so the N terminal region of TF2B occupies this region what we call as RNA exit channel. Now this region has to be removed. This region of TF2B has to be removed. Why? Because otherwise the RNA will not come properly to the outside of the RNA polymerase, and it will get displaced from the RNA polymerase every time. So it has to be removed. Just like this sigma 3.2 region has to be removed out in order for proper functioning of the RNA polymerase, so that RNA can easily can pass, comes out through this channel, to this RNA exit channel. That's why we have to degrade this sigma 3.2 region. In the same way, in eukaryotic transcription process, because they don't have sigma 3.2 region, what they have? They have the N terminal region of the TF2B. So the N terminal region of the TF2B occurs on that RNA exit channel, which has to be removed out during the elongation process of transcription. Otherwise the RNA, fully mature RNA, will not comes out from that channel, and it will get displaced each time, every time. Okay, so I hope you have understood what I have tried to say here. Okay, so that is the function of TF2B. So TF2B interacts with the RNA polymerase 2. It also interacts with the Tata box binding protein. It also interacts with its own BRE element, which is located on the upstream of the Tata box, and it also plays an important role by occupying a region of RNA exit channel. Okay, and that region which occupies by TF2B is your RNA exit channel. Okay, the N-terminal region of TF2B occurs on this RNA exit channel, and it has to be removed out for proper elongation process. So this was about the TF2B. Now let us talk about TF2F. Let us talk about TF2F. So about TF2F, what it is saying here, let us see. It is a 2 subunit factor which associate with the polymerase 2. Well, TF2F is attached ready-madely with the RNA polymerase 2, and it is recruited to the promoter together with that enzyme and other factors. Binding of polymerase to TF2F stabilizes the DNA TBP TF2B complex and is required before TF2E and TF2H are recruited to the pre-initiation complex. Well, the function of TF2F is only this line, only this line. So binding of polymerase 2 with TF2F will stabilizes the DNA TBP TF2B complex. This is the only importance of TF2F. TF2F associate with the RNA polymerase. You have seen in the diagram that TF2F associate with the RNA polymerase 2. You can see here, again I am showing, you can see here TF2F associate with the RNA polymerase 2. Now when TF2F associate with the RNA polymerase 2, it cause stability. It cause stability of what? It cause stability of what? It cause stability of the DNA TBP and TF2B complex. Okay, just this function is done by TF2F. It allows the RNA polymerase to bind properly to the promoter region. At the same time, it interacts with the other transcription factors, and at the same time, it also causes stability of the DNA, TBP, and TF2B complex. So here in this figure, this is your TBP, this round one, and TF2B is your the background. You can see the green color, TF2B, and DNA here, the upstream regions elements that you can see, the initiator element. Not the initiator is in upstream. Initiator is located on in upstream as well as in downstream. Well, the other elements like BRE elements and the data box, they also interact and allow stability of this DNA TBP TF2B complex. And it has to bind before TF2E and TF2H allows to come, because these are the last transcription factors which will allows for elongation process. Well, TF2H has a helicase activity. It will opens up the DNA at a particular site so that your RNA can be synthesized from a single stranded DNA strand. And the TF2H also have a kinase activity that I have said in the previous video. Well, kinase can phosphorylate, it add phosphate groups, where it will add the phosphate groups to the tail region of the RNA polymerase 2. So it will phosphorylate, the tail region of the RNA polymerase, so that the RNA polymerase will actually moves on and carries out the elongation process while shedding off most of the initiation factors. So before attachment of TF2H and TF2E, we need a stable binding of DNA TBP TF2B complex, and that is maintained by TF2F. Okay. Well, I hope you have understood what I have said. Okay. Next is your the last one, TF2E and TF2H. This is the last one of transcription factor. TF2E It's just like TF2F. It also has two subunit. Well, TF2E is look alike like TF2F. It is also having two subunits, and it has important role in recruitment of TF2H and also regulation of binding of TF2H. So TF2E has only one role, that is it allows the attachment of TF2H to the DNA, and it also regulates the binding also. That means it will allow that when TF2H will bind. Well, TF2H I have already discussed with you. TF2H, H for helicase, H for helicase. That means it has a helicase activity. It controls the ATP dependent transition of pre-initiation complex to open complex. Well, open complex means now the DNA at the promoter region will melt melt and will become single stranded region, okay, to form a transcription bubble. Just like in replication, they are DNA A, DNA B, okay, having the helicase activity, it unwinds and melt the DNA at the site of the origin of replication to form replication bubble, so that your DNA can be daughter DNA strands can be formed using the single stranded DNA as a template. Here also with the help of TF2H, it catalyze the formation of open complex, where the DNA at the promoter region will unwind. It will unwind, okay, and will now move forward for the elongation. TF2H is also the largest and most complex of the general transcription factors. Well, TF2H is little bit critical. It is more complicated than the other transcription factors. TF2H itself has 9 subunits and molecular mass comparable to that of polymerase itself. So much huge. Well, in the figure it shows a little bit, but TF2H is quite large. The structure of TF2H has been shown in the figure very small, but TF2H is made up of 9 subunits. It is made up of 9 subunits, and the molecular mass of the TF2H can be comparable with the RNA polymerase. That means almost equal. You can compare them with the molecular mass of RNA polymerase. Within TF2H, there are 2 subunits. Now, out of the 9 subunits, there are 2 subunits which have a ATPase activity. That means it has a helicase activity, or you can say ATPase activity, and another subunit of the TF2H have a kinase activity. That means it will phosphorylate the tail of the RNA polymerase. Okay, so the ATPase activity helps in promoter melting as described before, and the kinase activity helps to phosphorylate certain regions of the tail of the RNA polymerase, which will helps the RNA polymerase to move forward and carry the elongation process. Together with other factors, the ATPase subunits are also involved in nucleotide mismatch repair. Well, when you will study about the DNA repair process, when you will study about the DNA repair process, TF2H also plays an important role. Remember, I have said that TF2H has 9. I have said before that TF2H is made up of 2 subunits, but it has actually 9 subunits, and one of the 9 and two of those 9 subunits is XPA and XPD. Both of these subunits have a helicase activity, and both of these subunits involve in nucleotide mismatch repair process. Well, mismatch occurs in the DNA during replication. Although replication is more accurate than transcription process, still somehow mismatches occur. And to remove that mismatches, to remove that wrongly placed nitrogenous base in the DNA, we have to cleave them, we have to cut them and replace with new DNA, replace with with correct nucleotide, and that can be done with the help of this helicase activity, with the help of this TF2H. Okay, so you can see here what I have discussed about TF2E and TF2H. That TF2E, the function of TF2E only is recruitment of TF2H. That means it only allows the regulation and regulation of what? Regulation of binding of TF2H. Whereas TF2H has many activity. It has a ATP dependent. It has a ATP dependent activity so that it can catalyze the formation of open complex. Well, open complex, I have said that the DNA has to be unwinded at a particular site in order to in order to start the transcription process. Okay, so that your RNA can be synthesized from the DNA. Okay, RNA can be synthesized from the DNA using one of the strands. Okay, so this is the first function of TF2H. Second function is it has a kinase activity. It has a kinase activity which will phosphorylate a specific amino acid found on the tail region of the RNA polymerase. Okay, and they have also other subunits as well which catalyze many functions, and they are also involved in nucleotide mismatch repair mechanisms. Okay, so this was about the different types of transcription factors. Well, other additional proteins are also involved during the transcription process, like your mediator complex. Just I have shown you in the previous video at the last moment that how large is the mediator complex and what is the function of the mediator complex is, what can I say? It is saying I'm not going through all of this. Okay, what does mediator complex do, and what does it carries out, where it is located? I will try to just say. Okay, so let us see the thing one by one. I'm not going throughout this whole written up material. Let us see from here. Transcriptional regulatory transcriptional regulatory proteins called activators help to recruit the RNA polymerase to the promoter and stabilizing its binding there. So there are some other proteins also, and one of the protein is your activators. Activators helps to recruit the RNA polymerase 2 to the promoter region and stabilizing its binding there. That means it stabilize the RNA polymerase to be bind in that region only. Okay, now this recruitment is it can be done, this recruitment, how the activators helps in RNA polymerase to bind in that site only. On the other hand, the transcription factors are also helping the RNA polymerase to bind on the promoter region. Well, the activators is causing that recruitment by interaction between the DNA bound activators and parts of the transcriptional machinery. So the transcriptional machinery consists of the general transcription factors and the mediator complex. With the help of its interaction activators placing the RNA polymerase to bind in that site. So you can see there is no chance of having any wrong thing to occur. The RNA polymerase will bind to the promoter site only because the transcription factors are regulating that region to allow RNA polymerase to bind. On the other hand, the activators are also recruiting that RNA polymerase to bind on that site by interaction between the DNA bound activators and parts of the transcriptional machinery. Okay, now one of the other protein that is found on the transcription machinery is your mediators. Activators actually associate with these mediators. It is also called as mediator complex. Well, if you see the figure, you can able to clarify your doubt. Well, you can see the activators bind with the certain regions of the DNA. These are located on the upstream. Okay. Now, why the bending of the DNA occurs, as I have said before, because of when TBP binds to the Tata box, it causes a widening of the minor groove and cause bend of the DNA at an angle of 80 degree. But it has shown on almostly 90 degree. It has shown. So just for simplicity, it has been shown there. Now you can see here that these activators associate with the mediator complex. Okay, it is associated with the mediator complex, and that mediator is associated with the RNA polymerase. Specifically, actually mediator actually interacts with the tail region of the RNA polymerase too. Okay, so normally these activators are also helps to recruit the RNA polymerase to bind properly to the promoter region, and that is done only by interaction between the activators which are already bound with the DNA with the parts of transcriptional machinery. And often these activators associate with the mediator complex. Often, most of the case you can see that is given in the diagram, activators associate with the mediator complex. Normally mediators, as you can see here, the mediators that you can see here, mediator, what it does, mediator interact with the tail region of the RNA polymerase 2. Obviously, mediator also interact with the activators on above, and it also interacts with the tail region of RNA polymerase 2. You can see the tail region, I am marking it. So it also interacts with the tail region of the RNA polymerase 2, and it also interacts with the activator. Okay, at the same time. Now, normally I have said that where mediator binds, but what is the central role of mediator? Well, mediator helps in initiation process. Mediator helps in initiation process by regulating the kinase activity of the TF2H. So what is the function of the mediator? What is the function of the mediator complex is to regulate, it helps to regulate the kinase activity, it helps to regulate the kinase activity that is to be occurred to the tail region of the RNA polymerase. It regulates the kinase activity of the tail of RNA polymerase 2 of TF2H. So mediator complex only helps to regulate the kinase activity which is going to be done on the tail region of the RNA polymerase 2 as done by TF2H. That's all. Okay. Okay. So it regulates the carboxy terminal domain, or you can say it regulates the tail region of the RNA polymerase. It regulates the kinase activity, or you can say it regulates the phosphorylation of the tail of RNA polymerase as done by TF2H. It also plays an important role in transcriptional activation, because without phosphorylation, your proper elongation process will not occur. And it has been observed that if somehow the proteins which make up your mediator, somehow if there is loss of expression of this mediator protein complex, then it leads to loss of expression of the transcription process. Okay, so mediators, they are actually working a important role. At the same time, actually all are working importantly, but mediator carries out the main function. If I say for the elongation process, because mediator is regulating, it is regulating the phosphorylation of the tail as of the tail of RNA polymerase 2 done by the TF2H. Okay, now there are different types of activators that you can see that interacts with the different mediator components. Well, mediator is not made up of single subunit, obviously. I have shown with to you that mediator is made up of multiple subunit, as you can see in this figure, made up of multi subunits, and activators interact with these subunits. Okay, so different activators, it is saying here that different activators are believed to interact with the different mediator subunit. Okay, you can see here different activators are believed to interact with the different mediator subunits to bring polymerase to different genes. Mediator also helps in initiation by regulating the kinase activity of TF2H, so that they can able to regulate the phosphorylation state of the tail during the initiation, just after initiation process. Okay, now in this picture, if I say, it also contains some more proteins also, like chromatin remodeler, hat protein. What does it do? What does it do? Let us see. The hat enzyme, as you can see, the hat sub name has been given. It is called as histone acetyl transferase. This hat enzyme can acetylate the conserved lysine amino acid on the histones proteins by transferring an acetyl group from the acetyl coenzyme A to form N-acetyl lysine. So histone acetyl transferase, this enzyme is specifically related with the histone proteins, and histone proteins are those proteins which helps in binding of the DNA to form nucleosomes, which are further binded to form chromatin and then ultimately condensed to form chromosome during cell division. So what does histone acetyl transferase do? It transfer it actually acetylate the conserved lysine amino acid on the histone protein. So if this is the histone proteins, and if there is lysine on this side, histone acetyl transferase will acetylate this region. It will acetylate this region where lysine is present on the histone proteins, and by transferring this acetyl group to these histone proteins, the genes can be turned on and off. So this enzyme is associated with the gene expression. This enzyme is associated with the gene expression at transcription level. If it needs to be turned off, we don't need to transcribe the gene. We don't need to transcribe this portion of DNA now. Then the histone acetyl transferase will carry out their function. Well, two type of enzymes are there. One is called histone acetyl transferase. One is called histone deacetylase. Both enzymes are involved in chromosome formation to form chromatin structure. That means it forms either loosely bound DNA called euchromatin and heterochromatin. I will give you I give you a video animation on this nucleosome coiling and decoiling for you to understand. Because if the chromosome is loosely coiled, if the chromosome is loosely coiled, then the DNA become accessible for these mediator proteins, RNA polymerase, to carries out the transcription, and that is called euchromatin. Well, when we don't need any transcription process, when we don't need any expression of the gene, then we go for heterochromatin formation, where we condense the chromatin so that no other proteins can interact with the DNA at that time. Now this occurred during the cell division process, because during cell division, what is our main objective is to separate the chromosomes equally to the opposite poles, so that daughter cells get equal amount of and same complement of chromosomes equally. So histone acetyl transferase helps in gene expression. Okay, another enzyme is also there, HDAC, histone deacetylase. Both of them involve in gene expression, which allows the actually allows the histone proteins to coil up with the DNA to form chromatin, or it can allow unwinding of the DNA so that the enzymes like DNA polymerase, RNA polymerase can access at that region to carry out their process of transcription, right? Okay. So generally, what does histone acetylase do actually? Histone acetylase increases the gene expression, because histone acetylase, what it do, it acetylates it acetylates the histone proteins. Where it acetylates the histone proteins? Now histone proteins have lysine amino acid. Within that lysine amino acid, it transfers the acetyl group, and thereby when it acetylates the histones, the histone unwinds with the DNA, and thus the DNA become loosely coiled, so that your transcription process, the enzymes responsible for transcription, can access to that portion of the DNA and carries out the transcription process. In this way, histone acetylation increases the gene expression. So HAT is actually catalyzing the expression of the genes. That's why it is interacting with the activators here. Okay. So this was for today's lecture. In the next lecture, I will say about the phosphorylation state of the tail, that what happens when specific regions of the RNA polymers 2 are phosphorylated. Well, you can see it has been mentioned here all the repeated amino acid sequence that is found on the tail region: tyrosine, serine, proline, threonine, serine, proline, serine. Now, this is a one letter symbol denoting the amino acid. Well, we know the tyrosine symbol is TYR, but in one letter symbol we give Y. Okay, in case of serine, we write ACR, but for one letter code we will write S. Proline for P. Okay, so in this way, we will discuss in the next class that how your phosphorylation occurs on the RNA polymers 2, and how does it recruits the capping enzyme for 5 prime cap formation in the tail, sorry, in the for allowing 5 prime cap formation in the 5 prime region of the RNA. Then your the splicing machinery, it will recruit the splicing machineries to remove away the introns and joins the exons to form a mature mRNA. And finally, after just after end of the transcription, then how does phosphorylation of the tail allows the polyadenylation factors to join and tail add polyadenylate tail to the 3 prime end of the RNA. So this was for today's lecture.